Do it.
Oh, wrong button. Of course I use my buttons, and my buttons don't work. And right then, my son comes in. All right, let's go. Yes. All right, there we go. That's the one I wanted.
They forgot.
I know, I meant to. A pipe burst at their school because it's really cold out, and it's -2 right now, and the sun's up. It was like -8 when I was walking the other kids to school, or to their bus stop. But yeah, pipe burst yesterday, and it's not fixed yet, so he has Zoom school today, and I forgot to tell him I was starting something, so I should have. Hello, rollers. Hello. All right. Hopefully all this works. Can you guys hear Sweeky? Can you hear me? I have not done a live stream in so long, and everything was broken. I had to reinstall all my software today. All of it.
I forgot how Twitch works. Hold on. Let's see. Get started. I can do stuff. I can.
Squeaky is an echo. Okay. Let's try fixing that. Hold on. I will fix it for you, Squeaky. Let's.
Thing is, I can't test it.
I just muted Squeaky on accident. I can hear her. You guys can't hear her. So what I need to do is change what this says. Oh, I'm out of sync? Wow. It looks, yeah, it's a little off. I told you I just reinstalled everything and it's bad. And let's, okay.
We don't know how anything works anymore.
Okay, Squeaky's going into that audio. Let's change her, my audio settings. So I had to actually do 2 calls with Squeaky. So we have 2. That's probably why you're getting an echo.
We could end the other call. Oh no, but then I won't be able to hear you. So.
Correct. That's why we have 2 calls. It's right. I can fix it. I can fix it.
Okay.
Let's go to audio.
We're very professional here. We totally know what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh, so much. Let's try sending you to that one. All right. Now does Squeaky have an echo?
Hello. Am I echo or am I not echo? Oh, I hear myself now.
You hear yourself?
Did you put me on some speaker?
Try that. Now.
Hello.
Do we have echo?
I don't hear at least I don't hear myself anymore.
Okay. Tepeshi, do we have echo for Squeaky?
Hello. Echo? No echo.
Still echo?
No.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna change all of this up. We're gonna send you through here. We're going to mute this one. Now I'm going to go over to my fancy voice meter, and I'm going to take your input from voice meter input and send you through here. Okay, now I can't hear you. You went away. Let me put you through. Whoa, that was a lot of echoes. I just got a lot of echoes that time. Okay. Yeah, talk.
Hello.
Yeah, now I'm getting
I
echoes.
was gonna say, you can turn the screen on. You can turn off the other screen share.
No.
Just keep your audio on.
Yeah.
I wonder if that will help with your face and sound not syncing.
Do you guys have an echo? Or is it just me now? I think I fixed it to where hopefully only I have an echo.
Not ideal, but I'll take it.
No, we can fix it right. Okay, what I'll do, if I send you to this one, voice meter input, I have a bunch of inputs, a bunch of virtual inputs. If I send you to the right virtual input, if I send you to the aux, and now from that one, I send you to here. Wow.
Okay.
Let's. Oh, how do I get my moderator tools on? I don't even have that on. Buying followers. All right. Now do we have?
No,
echo?
I'm trying to see. Okay. Let's see. Echo. Testing. I don't hear myself anymore.
Do you guys hear Squeaky now? She might be a little soft.
Echo.
Yeah, so I'll turn her up.
Echo. No more
ahead and
echo.
talk,
Please don't
Squeaky.
be echo. Oh yeah, but it sounds like in a church. Yeah, we're preaching anyways. It's great.
It's because Squeaky. I don't know. I wonder if I can send her through. Okay, we'll do one last
I'd
thing.
rather be in a church.
No. I'm going to run you through my audio fancy stuff. Audio output is going to go through aux. All right. Now,
One of my machine is just like going wild. The fans are like on extra drive right now. I don't know why.
how does Squeaky
I'm gonna
sound
close
now?
things.
Hey, Anacat. Perfect.
Hello. Oh,
Squeaky,
nice.
Now you're using my noise canceling.
No wonder.
So
Yes,
now
I
you're
have free noise
great.
canceling.
Let me turn on
have
my
free noise
moderation
cancelling.
stuff so I can block this guy.
Yeah, I was trying to do that too. I'm a mod. It should let
Yeah,
me
you
block
are.
this person too. I'm in mod now. There we go. I forgot to click that button.
Aha, you're a mod. Yeah, there's a button I can push. We know what we're doing, guys. I promise we know what we're
We
doing.
totally know. Yeah.
We have no
Okay.
idea what we're doing. All right.
I'm trying to remember how I can like get this
It's
guy
all right.
off. I think it's,
Yeah, there's a button you can push to view the mod settings.
I'm in that now, and now I'm
Then
trying
you
to
should have buttons
remember.
next to their chat. And I refreshed, so
Yeah.
I don't have his chat anymore. It's all right. We'll forget about him.
Okay, that makes sense now because I just refreshed and it's gone too. But at least I'm in the mod view now, which is good.
All right. So now we have audio that doesn't sound like Squeaky's in a church.
Still want that back, but okay.
Just so everyone understands what I've done, because this is awesome. I highly recommend if you have, this only works on Windows. If you're running any type of meetings, I do this for all of my meetings. I run everything through NVIDIA Broadcast, everything. And it works with an RTX card or higher, or you can technically make it work on like a 1080. You just have to hack it to make it work, but it works. And if you do that, my dog barks and goes nuts and no one can hear it. And it's great because it only does voice and sirens. It removes everything. I actually can play music and you don't hear it. It's awesome.
That is pretty great. That I'm definitely jealous about.
So on your Windows machines, try it out. Highly recommend it. Okay. Wow, it's 2 a.m. Oh, I'm
That
so
is
sorry.
dedication.
That is
That
way too
is-
much dedication. Wow.
Oh my god! Now we have to actually make this worth their time.
Yes.
Oh
so
my god.
we will talk and hopefully give good input, good advice. It's actually kind of interesting because like I've been very nostalgic lately, and I'm glad that you people make me want to talk about it. So, and I'm actually realizing my video is smaller than Squeaky's. There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm still smaller, but it's okay. That unalignment
balanced
is
it
gonna,
out.
I'm gonna see that and it's gonna drive me nuts, the non-alignment. Even though I'm horrible at graphics and stuff. But now I'm off the screen. It's
Okay.
okay. I'm gonna stop moving this around. Ooh.
Stop fidgeting. Stop fidgeting. There we go. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. That looks the best. See, my dog is barking right now because FedEx is here and you can't hear it. But I can, so I can't think because she's barking. But all right, let's talk career stuff. So yeah, I've been very nostalgic lately and reached out. You can hear it?
Oh, I can hear it a little bit now. It was very faint though. It's not like super loud. Now it stopped. Now it's like pin drop silence. What did you do?
I mean, she's going nuts. So
It's not super loud though. It's just there. Just there.
maybe I did the wrong input
Anyway.
for you guys, but I thought I did the right one. It's all right. It's good enough.
If anybody wants to know why this started, I put the Twitter thread in there. Fun one.
Yeah, there's just been lots of good career talk going around about people talking about like non-traditional career paths, and Squeaky was one of the ones who convinced me that I needed to do this. That's why I made her join me. And it's actually kind of fun because we both have very different career paths getting into tech.
Yeah. Yep.
Very different career paths. So it could be fun to have a couple different perspectives and just to talk about our different paths and how we got to where we are. And yeah, even just getting into tech. So who wants to go first?
You go first. You go first.
You go
Oh,
first?
I can go first. Mine's is so straightforward. There's nothing much in mine. What was my career path? My career path, I went to school for computer science. Then I interned in Microsoft. Then I went to school again for computer science. And then I joined Xamarin.
And then you got bought by Microsoft.
Yeah. Then I just came back to Microsoft. So I just keep going in circles, trying to get away from Microsoft, and I just keep coming back to Microsoft. It's like Ben. Ben keeps getting like joining companies that just keep getting acquired by Microsoft. So that's what we do, man. That's our career path. That's my career path. So mine's very traditional. I went to school for computer science. Did my master's in computer science because I just like computer science. So easy peasy. No complicated stuff there.
Yeah, no complicated. Only getting a master's degree. Nothing complicated about that. So, yeah, no, my career path is quite a bit different. It's really different than that. I always liked computers. I was too poor to afford them, so I never got them. I got my first 8088 in high school, which I know I'm old, but it was old. That computer was even really old then. That was like the same computer I used in elementary school. So yeah, and I liked computers and I got into it and I didn't want to do programming. I thought programming was going to suck and be like the worst career path ever. And
oh man, okay.
I know. Can you believe that? That was actually my thought in high school. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing programming. I will never be programming.
Oh man, okay.
I was way off. So I don't know. It's got into like, I was always into computers and like my first job was like I used to work as a gopher at a mechanic shop, which means you're the guy where they say, go for this, go for that. And I need this tool.
Yeah,
so that's all I did. And I went from that to working in like daycare and running an after school program for like kids and just played with kids and nothing related with tech whatsoever. And I mean, years later, I finally got a job where I at least got to work on a computer, but I wasn't doing computer stuff. I was doing like, what was I doing? I was doing inspection reports. So when people try to get insurance for their house, you have to like have a report or inspection done to evaluate the value of the house. And I used to proof those reports. So that was at least digital because I did it on a computer. But like, yeah. I mean, what really got me starting into programming was around that time. That was 2003. MySpace was really big back then. Did you use MySpace?
Yes. Everybody, I feel like there's one chunk of a generation that really got inspired to start going into tech. MySpace. Always.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like MySpace. Like in high school, I tried programming. Well, I tried reading about how to like build a game. I'm like, oh, if I'm going to code, I'm going to build a game. And I read an article on how to do just bullets in C++. I'm like, this is a nightmare. I will never do this. But like MySpace, I'm actually kind of sad that we don't have something like MySpace for our current generation. I mean, we kind of have Roblox and Minecraft a little bit, but it's not the same. Like MySpace was so revolutionary because like your page, you had to make it yours. And to do it, there were some pre-done templates and stuff, but you had to code. And what really got me going was like, I like music. I mean, hence building June music eventually and things like that. But actually the first program and the first real coding I did was for MySpace. On MySpace, you could choose one song and have that song blare whenever anyone went to your page. They had to listen to your song.
Yeah.
And that was cool. Like you could pick your song, but I'm like, my music tastes cannot be put down into one song. And I learned how to build a Flash music player. So I built a music player in Flash that took an XML config file, and from that would play music and play multiple songs. So I was like, I'm not just doing one song. Of course not. It was hard, and it was really hard. But I figured it out. But it was cool that I had something that I wanted to do. And I mean, there was lots of interesting stuff on Flash, and Flash is such horrible technology anymore. But at the time it was so cool, and I could like make a music app, and it would randomly play one of my like top 10 songs, not just one song. And so it kind of got me moving towards tech at that point. And in there, I started doing some more things at that company. I started actually learning programming. I was doing C# and I didn't know I was doing C#.
No way.
So do you remember the old technology InfoPath, or have you ever heard of that?
Nope. No idea.
InfoPath was a technology that went nowhere inside of Microsoft and externally. It was tied with SharePoint somehow, and it was in that whole type of thing. But you could like build these interactive forms. So basically like a Google questionnaire type thing, but you could drop to the code behind, let's say, and actually write C# functions. And so
Pretty nifty.
we were trying to redo our inspection software. So they used to do it all as an ASP.NET website. The programmers were like, it's just too much work for them to build all these forms out. Even just in web forms, there's just too much work. And so like, we'll do this InfoPath thing. So they had me building InfoPath forms. And then they would write the C# code behind. And then after they did a couple of them, like for validation, they're like, you can figure it out. And so I was like looking at their code, copying, pasting it, and changing the field names to like fix the validation.
Right.
And I had no idea till years later that was C# that I was using. So
That's amazing.
I was
That's
totally,
amazing.
but after doing like ActionScript, I'm like, oh, C#'s pretty good. Like this is like that. It felt familiar from going from like that to ActionScript from the Flash stuff to, C#.
Right.
But like, I mean, from there, I went on to doing like IT. I ran an IT department for a franchising company. I kind of just jumped along. And one thing that I should mention that's really been crucial to my career and my career paths that I think can apply to people is each of these jobs I've listed, I had 0 prior experience.
I was just about to say that. It's like, yeah, even in that, you just like picked up C# just along the way. It's like, oh, I need to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, like nothing that I applied for and I did, I was qualified for. And when people are, no, it's true though. When people are job hunting though, a lot of times they start looking at resumes and they'll look at one, they're like, wow, I don't check the boxes for those. I shouldn't do that. Whereas like with me, like I went from like proofing reports. Chris, why hello.
Yes!
Yes, I absolutely remember finding you on Find My Friends to find you at pinball. That was at one of the Microsoft conferences. There's a build or something. I think we're still on Find My Friends. There's a few of us.
I wouldn't
from
be
the old-
surprised if you guys are.
From the old Xamarin ones that were still all on Find My Friends. That was awesome back then. We were all on iPhones. But yes. So like the big thing though is like, don't be scared to like apply for something that you don't check all the boxes. I mean, when I was I was proofing reports. All I had to do was make sure that like they drew the house shapes right and they checked the right boxes that matched the pictures. And I went from that to like, I showed that I was willing to do some technical things. And so I built that whole MySpace thing. And of course, people at work all saw it because everyone was friends with everyone on that type of stuff. And they all saw it and I talked about how I did it. And then I ended up, the marketing ladies like, hey, can you build us a Flash marketing thing? And they gave me some like PowerPoint slides and I turned that into like a Flash thing, which after doing Music Player, that was really basic. Hey, Lachlan, how's it going? But like just being able to like get in, and then I went from that to they like promoted me and moved me into the InfoPath stuff, and I learned C# on accident. But I started doing like SQL queries because I had to do like some SQL Server reporting services. So at that job, and like SQL stuff was pretty simple. Like I liked it. It wasn't hard to do. I caught on to SQL pretty quick. But I went from that to running an IT department, and I had people who reported to me. I had never done management before. I had to do tech support for like, it was, I don't know, like 120 stores worldwide. And I was like the main tech support guy, and along with the people who reported to me. And we had to like make sure that their point of sales and their databases kept going, and databases corrupt. And I had to figure out how to like uncorrupt databases. But like, I had no qualifications for that. Prior to that, like, of course, I've been doing computer stuff forever because I liked it. But like in high school, I did that. We had an elective that we could do in high school, to where we were like electives.
What
so
is
you
this
have
elective? I know the electives. What? Yeah, but what do you call this one? The WIN elective?
No, I had an elective that was an IT something thing. It was not a
there
real
you
class.
go. Okay.
It was not a real class. There was no instruction, no book. It was basically, we had the admin for all the IT stuff at the school. We were just his little assistants. And all we did was fix printer problems. That was it. Like printer problems or restart things. Once in a while, we'd get something a little bit more exciting, which was like exciting for 5 minutes, like cloning drives. Or we wrapped up cables and put a rubber bands on them because he was anti-tape. So you had to zip tie or rubber band them. Like those were the options. You did not put tape on his cords. But we played games. Let's be honest. That's what we did. We played a lot of StarCraft and Warcraft 2. But like I always like was drawn to them. So like I fixed computers and I like built my own computer in high school and built my first network with printer cables because that's how you did it back then.
Nice.
And like I just was drawn to that way. And so since I knew how to fix computers, and basically what that meant was I was not scared to click buttons until something worked. I was able to like, get into the IT job, and knowing enough SQL from doing the SQL Server reporting stuff got me enough to like, I can write reports for you guys. And that's kind of how I even moved further along with that. So we didn't have coax and all that stuff. So the computers that I'm talking about were like 386s was when I did my first network, was on old 386s with a NIC card in it. It had a network card in it, but the network cards were the old token ring stuff. Like we did not have Ethernet in my house, and we didn't have token ring. We didn't have all the equipment to actually do the token ring. So my brother and I, we ended up pairing them, and it had a 14.4 modem in it. So we ended up doing the LPT2 printer ports, or whatever. You could like get a double-ended cable, so you could do two males, so that way you could plug into the two female ends and actually do a network. Windows 95 would allow you to do an ad hoc network over those printer ports. And so we did that so we could play Warcraft 2 together.
Nice.
And then we eventually like shared the Wi-Fi, or shared that 14.4 modem between the two. Oh, is that what it's called? Is a null cable modem? I don't even know what it's called. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just plugging things in and clicking buttons until it worked. You'll notice that there's a pattern here.
Yeah, I was going to say that. That's kind of what we do today as well. I feel like a conversation from like yesterday to today is the same thing. Like I'm just putting stuff together and just like pushing buttons, and I'm just like asking you, is this the right buttons to push? Yeah.
And like, I don't know, I pushed this one and it worked. So go check what I did. And like, honestly, getting into tech and stuff, it seems so daunting and scary. Yeah, we used to play Network StarCraft 2 as well. Like eventually we upgraded to StarCraft. At that point, we finally did have DSL. And we did have a 14.4 modem. Like I remember like playing Diablo though, there was no IP option. Like we used to dial each other's houses. There was no battle.net for Diablo. Like if you think back at that, and even Warcraft 2, it wasn't until StarCraft that we had Battle.net. Actually, there was the Battle.net edition of Warcraft 2 that came out later. But yeah, all of that, you had to make up your own. There was no TCP IP connection on that crap. Like it didn't even do that. Crazy. So yeah, we used to like dial into each other's houses. Direct connection to play that. Oh, there you go. No modem cable. See, this is a thing where I also think that's actually bad for me in my career. I actually lots of times have no idea what things are called. I didn't go to school. If I'm asked if someone asks me what an algorithm is, certain algorithms are, I'll be like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I can go Google it and read up and I'll understand it. But I didn't memorize algorithms. There's a lot that I feel that I don't know even this late stages in my career, because I'm self-taught. And so I'm missing a lot of things, like, a null modem. I've been like, I don't know, that sounds weird. Of course. Okay. But I don't know what things are called. I just don't. It's kind of funny.
I think that's a big, I do not believe that's a big problem though. I mean, you don't really need to know what like a thing is called, as long as you know how it works. You can make stuff work. I like how you're that kind of person. You're just like, let's just get into it. Let's get our hands dirty and learn, which is I think the best way to learn. So
completely agree. And that's kind of like some of my main advice I would give to people is just like jump in and try things. Don't be afraid to get a position that you're not qualified for. And I'm honest, I'm upfront. This is not stuff I've done before. This is the stuff I have done. This is how it applies. And this is how I know I'm not worried about that. That part will come. This is what I can do though. And so it's kind of nice being able to actually just go in and be honest with the people you're talking to and say, this is, let's try it out. What's the worst that can happen?
Yep.
And honestly,
No, we stopped at the IT company. So you were doing that stuff. You were doing the IT help desk stuff. There's still more time before you ended up at Xamarin.
Yes, there is. That would have
Which is the exciting part of this story. Yeah.
I don't even know when that was. I can't remember years on that. I had been at probably 2004, 2006, 2007, somewhere around there. It's actually, I was working there when the iPhone came out. What year did the iPhone come out?
I don't know about that. Let's see.
I don't know. Whatever year the iPhone came out, I was working there then. Because it's also the year that I met and was dating my wife, and she got one when we were dating. And then,
2007.
2007. There we go. Dating myself by iPhones. It's kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, working there and doing that kind of thing, it was like, there was reports. Like it was a franchise company and they had stores and they were clothing stores, used clothes. And so there was lots of reports that needed to be written. And I ended up like the first like .NET program that I realized I was writing, because the InfoPath stuff doesn't count because I was just doing some scripting there. But I ended up writing SQL Server I just went straight to SQL Server reporting services because I knew that from my previous job, and I could write SQL. So I was able to write these SQL queries, and then I was like showing them the outputs, like the raw outputs from the SQL, just like exporting it. And they're like, these are awesome. We need this something pretty so we can show them to the stores. And so then I'm like, oh, we'll do SQL Server reporting services, which is great until you realize that you can't like directly connect to things. Each store had their own individual database that was not SQL Server. It was a SQLite, which is, it was like SQLite. It was actually Sybase, Adaptive Server Anywhere, which is SQLite. It's SQLite that runs and you connect to them. It's like, so how do you do that when you don't actually have access to these databases? They're just a file on these storage machines. And that's why we had so many corruption issues, because it was SQLite, but running a store. So kind of funny.
I see.
So I started writing a WinForms app. In WinForms, you could actually import a report export from SQL Server reporting service. There was a report control. You can just drag and drop into WinForms. However, how do you connect to the database? Because it needs that data. So I ended up spending like, I don't know, it took me like 2-3 weeks of like trying to like bang my head against the wall. In the end, it's super, super easy. So on the computers, each of them had, no, I can't remember the name of it. It had there's the SQL Server connection, or the data connections that you can have inside it's the IDBC connections. You can just have that. They had one of those to the device or to the database. And so I ended up having to do like run these queries through IDBC, but the queries had to input the values from like the drop downs for like date ranges and things. So grab those. I probably was not doing it SQL injection safe. You probably could have injected into my SQL, because I was probably just like concatenating strings, executing those to that IDBC connection, and then you got back a data table, and then you could tie that data table to the report and say, use this report file.
Right.
And you had to give the data tables a name that matched whatever the report was expecting. That took me like 2 weeks to figure that stupid thing out. Like, honestly, I could write that in 5 minutes right now. You drag the control over, you make one button that presses, executes the SQL, puts that data set to that value. But I could not figure that crap out. Like, it was hard. And when you're trying to break into tech...
Computers are hard.
Computers are hard. Exactly. And like the biggest thing is like try to break things down into like the small parts. I was able to get the SQL reporting server stuff started, and that worked. And even doing that with IDBC connections on my own local stuff, I had that working when I was learning it locally. But like try breaking things apart. I found there was the control and drug that in. But there's going to be lots of hard things. And that's one of the principles that I started learning really early was like, this is hard. Break it up into small bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
And the bite-sized pieces then was like a week worth of work, not something that I can do quickly now. But don't compare yourself to those around you. You're learning. It's going to take time. It's hard.
That's most important, for sure. It's so hard. Like everybody has imposter syndrome, so it's so hard not to feel like the dumbest in the room. But just you stick to your own. You stick to your own path. I feel like just compare yourself to your older self instead.
Yeah, and even then, sometimes it's even hard. It's like, just make sure that you're doing the best you can and you're trying. And there's a lot that you'll be able to pick up and learn. From that, though, I have a big habit of biting off more than I can chew, as you've noticed. And I went straight from writing this one WinForm app. It did nothing like executing the queries. I did not go to the background thread. I didn't show spinners. I locked the UI. It's a WinForms app. It's what everyone does, right? So yeah. I went straight from that to writing an inventory management system for them.
Wow. Nice.
I was like, all right, this is all starting to click. It makes sense. I mean, it's just SQL. It's just executing SQL. I just got to like send messages back and forth and populate. Instead of a report, I'm putting buttons on a screen, and there's actually all those little list controls, not the list. What they call them. It's the scrolling. Was it a list? It was the scrolling. I don't know, the scroll views that have the item sources. I can't remember. It was all that, just a bunch of those. And I went from, that to, reports to that. And the first version sucked, but it worked. And I was like, you know what? I need to become a programmer. This is what I want to do now. I don't want to do this IT stuff anymore. I'm going to be a programmer. And I had just gotten married. My wife has actually pushed me a lot. She's one of those that like really pushes me to do more, so it's actually pretty good. I mean, she's the one who said I should build the inventory management thing, and I listened to her. I don't know why, but I did. And she's from Alaska. I'm from Florida. We were living in Utah at the time. And
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So right in the middle, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put my resume up and say I'm willing to become a programmer. And I threw it up on a dice.com. And then one of the questions like, are you willing to relocate somewhere? And she's like, one day I want to live back in Alaska. And so I said, you know what? I'm willing to relocate to Alaska, thinking nothing can come from this. Like nothing. Within a week, I had a call. And within 2 weeks, I had a job offer to be a full-time programmer at a consulting company. I was like, this is not happening. I'm moving to Alaska. And like a month later, 2 months later, I was living in Alaska. And yeah, I'm still in Alaska.
Oh, yes, you are. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I mean, it was good. Like they took a chance on me. And that was my first time doing a technical interview. And I was straightforward with them. I'm like, I'm self-taught. Depending on what you ask me, I might not be able to answer it. I can talk about what I've done and I can explain the things I know. And so, honestly, the guy was nice and he's like, okay, so what have you done? And I explained the things I've done. I'm like, these are things I'm familiar with. And he's like, okay, so if you were to do a point of sale application, how would you, and he asked me to like explain how I would create the SQL database tables. I'm like, all I did was explain the tables that I had just worked with for the past couple of years. I'm like, okay, well, you have the header table and then you have the lines items for each of the individual lines. And those are tied together by a primary key for the parent record. And this is the data you'd save. And all I was doing was just spitting out the data that I've just been writing reports on. Like,
I mean, that he was checking your fundamental clarity is what I'm getting from this. So he's just saying, you said you've done all this work. He's just making sure you really, really understood what you were doing, not just like just sticking things together. So I think that's actually a good interview.
No, it's true. It was actually a good, fair interview. Yeah. It wasn't one where they're like, go reverse this binary tree. And if he would have said those words to me, I would have had no idea what he was talking about. And so I was hoping I made that clear that if you ask me something traditional like that, I don't know. I have practical experience, not school. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, I couldn't even tell you what year I learned what a binary tree was. I had no idea what that was for the longest time. So,
I mean, I feel like I know what a binary tree is, but I don't know how much value it's added to my life so far. So who even knows?
Yeah, the only time I've dealt with them has been in interviews. So,
Same here.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because like a lot of times if you're upfront with the people that you're talking to and you say, this is the experience I have, and I've had good luck with that. And you're like, this is what I know. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because like it was a consulting company. And so also they had nothing to lose. They were paying me a certain amount and then they were charging double to the client anyway. So.
Right.
What's the worst
So what kind of work did you do there then? Did you learn more stuff there? Did you learn something other than C# over there?
Oh, yes. Absolutely different. The first project they threw me on was Cold Fusion. And I'd never heard of Cold Fusion and never touched it before. And so, yes, I learned Cold Fusion as my first job. It was all Cold Fusion and SQL Server. Like 99% of it was, not 99, but all the UI was Cold Fusion. But like all the logic, everything was stored procedures. It was all SQL. The whole thing was a SQL app, like hands down. There was just a Cold Fusion UI. So I learned Cold Fusion and I learned about like some security penetration stuff there. And I was able to show, hey, look, this thing is not secure. Check this out. And they're like, well, no one knows about the application. It's no big deal. I'm like, yeah, but look, here are your credentials stored in plain text on a public URL. let's fix this. And so I learned about like encryption, so I can encrypt that file that was required. But it's funny that the reason that file was required was because their reports were SQL Server reporting services. And Cold Fusion and SQL Server,
you knew that.
I did know that. They can't communicate with each other. And so they actually had a text file so the Cold Fusion stuff could read the credentials out to send to the reporting services.
Oh, man.
So like, fine, I don't know how to redo this, so I'm going to learn some encryption. We're going to encrypt this file so it's encrypted, and the app's going to know how to decrypt it. So it was kind of funny. And even if it wasn't really secure, it was more secure because there wasn't credentials in plain text on a public URL. And it had to be public because the two things had to be able to view the file.
Talk to each other. Yeah.
So yeah, fun stuff. But I mean,
fun times.
Eventually I did switch over and start doing some C# stuff there. I got assigned to learn, I was assigned to a VB WinForms project, and I learned VB, hated it. But did some VB. And I mean, it's one of those things that if it's something you're interested in, you have a goal, you're going to figure it out. Like, I wanted to keep my job. I'm going to figure this crap out. And I mean, they knew I didn't know the stuff. So there was an expected ramp up period where I had time to learn it. And that just being upfront and honest with people, they understand these things. Most people will. And if they don't, do you really want to work there? That's kind of how I viewed it, is if people don't know where I'm coming from and can't see the value I can bring, I don't want to be there anyway. And actually, while I was working at that company, I moved on and started doing like ASP.NET stuff and started figuring things out, and all of that made sense. And I was finally back at C# world again. And I really like C#. Of all the languages I had touched up to that point, C# was my favorite, hands down. Same. And that's when I started trying to, like, the iPhone had been out for a while now, and they just announced they were doing the SDKs. Because the first version, there was no app store. You couldn't build apps for the iPhone. You could jailbreak and do things like that. But I was excited, and I'm like, I had an iPhone at that point. I'm like, I want to build stuff for my iPhone. And I started learning Objective-C and hated it. As one does. Yep. Yeah. Around that time, there wasn't a lot of options. I started doing like Titanium Accelerator stuff, which was all JavaScript, and that was better. And one of the guys I worked with is like, there's this like Mono stuff, and they have this like preview thing called Mono Touch. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, oh yeah, here. And he sent me some links and sent me the IRC channel. And I started hanging out in the Mono Touch IRC channel, and I lived there. And I started building my iOS apps that way. And I got really, really into it and started building a to-do list app that I never finished. And I started building like Mono Game things and contributing to Mono Game. And then eventually that's when, like, if you saw that Twitter thread where Jeff Norton's like, hey, someone really needs to build this Google Music app. This thing sucks. Or there's no way to play it on the iPhone. It's horrible. Please, someone do this. And yeah, Frank's like, oh yeah, you can figure it out. Here, this is how I did it for Google Plus. And he actually did, if I remember right, he actually gave me pointers. And these are like people who are like so much smarter than me and know so much more than me, and are like, and they took the time to like actually coach me. And during that time as well, they introduced the Mono Mac project, which was the C# for Mac stuff. And they're like, hey, we need people to build, we need help doing some of the bindings. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I actually wanted to build a Mac program. And so I needed the tables and things like that. And they're like, oh yeah, so you run it through this script and clean it up. And then they're like, and then we'll help you. And so I ran it through the script. I looked at it, I'm like, it looks right. It compiles. It works. And so I sent a pull request in like that. There's like over 1,000 line pull request. And Miguel actually took the time and went line by line and code reviewed it.
Oh my
God. It's like, this is how you should do it. This is how you should do it. And I'm like, oh man. And like, these important people, very busy, took time to like help me. And it's amazing what that can do. And yeah. I mean, it's awesome and humbling. And yeah, I was embarrassed. I was really embarrassed once I realized what I had done and what they actually wanted. I'm like, oh man, they must think I'm the biggest idiot out here. and nothing
That's the
negative
rite
was
of
said.
passage. That's the rite of passage. You need to have like you had one. I feel like I've had like 4 or 5 dumbass PRs out there that had to be explained and coached. One of them was private. John had to teach me a bunch of stuff, so no one in the world will see that. But yeah, that was
Lipsky?
an excellent code review. Yeah, no one will ever see it. It's hidden somewhere in private. But yeah, you need to go through that. How else will you learn?
This one's public. You can find mine. It's on the Mono Mac. It's on the Mono Mac repo. It's one of the first few pull requests. You could find it.
But that's great. But I like how everyone talks so much about like open source this, open source that, but no one really highlights the fact that open source is also like a great learning tool because of things like this. Because communities will comment, people will if you have questions, they'll explain it to you. They're super nice. We don't have an IRC channel anymore, but we do have a Discord channel. So,
there's lots of Discord channels. Definitely join Discords. Mine's available. There's links on Twitter and on here. The C# one, the .NET Evolution one's a really good one. There's lots of good resources. Jump in there, ask questions. Honestly, I find the smaller ones tend to be better because if you're in the giant ones, your message gets lost in the thing. And that was great. Monotouch active that were regularly active, it was like 30 people that were like always on there. And then the numbers would go as people come in and out. But there was like about that many people who were pretty much always on there. And
right.
It's nice because like we'd have actual conversations and we got to know people. And I mean, Jim Bob Bennett, everyone knows him, Jim or whatever, for who's here. He at one point, he's like, one of the first things I helped with was he's like, I need help porting this Objective-C thing to C#. And so it was in-app purchases because there wasn't a lot of samples of how to do things in Monotouch.
Right.
And I had learned Objective-C first. And so I was like, I'll do it. And so I spent an hour and ported it and just like, here you go. And it was nice being able to help people and work with people and try these things out. And it was just a good, tight-knit community. Kind of miss it. So it was fun.
Yeah. But also there's a lesson here too. It's like you were not afraid. You're just like, sure, this is a problem. Let's try fixing it. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
And ask dumb questions. It's okay. Like send in that bad pull request. Hopefully someone will help you go through and walk you through it. And it's like, don't be scared of that thing. And then, the whole Gmusic thing happened. And you can look at some of the old code. It's pretty bad. Jeremy Sinclair and I were actually going through and comparing our bad code because he also worked on a Google Music app for Windows Phone. And we were just like talking about how bad all of our code was and all the horrible mistakes we made. And it's all out there. The dirty laundry's out there to be aired for everyone. Go look at it, poke around. We all start somewhere. We're all learning. We're all figuring it out. And honestly, the first version of Gmusic was horrible. It was so bad.
It worked. That's all it needed.
But it worked.
And it worked.
It worked. And that's the important thing is like building something and you get that euphoria of like, it works. And it's awesome. I mean, the first version didn't have offline support. You could only stream music is the only way to listen to it is streaming it. You lost internet connection while you were playing, guess what? Your music stopped. Like there was no redundancy. Yeah. There was nothing I didn't pre-cache stuff properly. Like you name it, it did it wrong. I didn't know how to use the database properly to like index things. And so I pulled your entire database into memory before I would let you see the UI.
Very nice. Yeah. Excellent. Best practice right there.
Best practice, yes. Don't use your database. Don't write queries. Just bring it all into memory and use link to group everything.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. That's so awesome. But like, so how did you? So I know you got the first version out, and then what? Did you just sit and did you learn new things, or did you of course you learn new things. How did you decide what to do next? Like, how did you go from, okay, I have something out now, then how did you change your mindset to, okay, now I'm going to learn new things to fix this to make it better?
Yeah, so, good question. So in that time, after I did the Google one, I actually went through and found the old private repo that has like all my commit history in it, which that's not public because I know I have like keys and passwords and stuff in there. So I have a cleansed version that's just like one small branch that's public. But back then, like I started working on the Amazon Music. I did an A Music at the same time. Like 2 weeks later, I'm like, you know what? Let's support Amazon Music. And that one was actually more popular than Google until Amazon lawyers contacted me about 2 weeks into it. And they're like, no, you can't do this. And I'm like, why not? And I'm like, they're like, well, some of the engineers says that some people are making it really slow by doing this. They're like, we know your app's actually fine, but it's just a blanket rule. We're not letting anybody. And I'm like,
oh no,
but here's all the people I'm bringing to your platform. And they're like, we don't care. And they didn't have an app for iOS for like 5 years after. It took them like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years from that point to actually have an app. So that was kind of sad. But at that point, I mean, I started using the app like nonstop for my own music. And so I just worked on what I wanted. And I got feature requests, got lots of feature requests. I added Last FM scrolling pretty quick in there. Luckily, Alan had a Last FM Sharp library, and so I just used his. Gmusic was built on a lot of open source. A lot of open source.
Yeah.
I mean, SQLite.net, monotouch.dialog was the UI at one point. I ended up moving away from it because it wasn't virtualized, but at first it was. My settings all in there were like, yeah. All my Last FM scrobbling was Last FM Sharp from Alan. And later I even used it for MP3 reading. He has an MP3 lib that'll let you read and write the metadata for MP3s. Alan's got some cool libraries out there too. Yeah.
Nice.
So like, I don't know. I just focused on what I wanted. Offline support was like major. Everyone's like, we want offline support. We want offline support. I had to fix all the streaming issues and work on cachings. And I rewrote that audio engine. Like, I don't know, even in the first version of Gmusic, it was rewritten like 5 or 6 times. People wanted equalizers. That took a long time. Eventually I did that. But I just worked on the things that I wanted, mixed in with what people were asking for. And timing on this is interesting because Gmusic, I was doing that in September of 2011, right when Gmusic was being released. So I'd already been building some apps. I did some games like with Mono Game. I was about to release Gmusic, and that's when the Mono Novell thing happened, to where Novell was bought by Attachmate, right? Is that who bought him? I think it was. And the entire Mono team was laid off.
Right.
And that was in June or July. So a few months before. I think it was July. Yes, you were there. And all of us are freaking out. Like, the community's freaking out. What now? So when I was building stuff, I didn't purchase a Mono Touch license until I was ready to ship to the app stores. That's when I bought my first license. Because it was like $1,500. And I wasn't making a lot of money back then. Yeah. So it was interesting. And like, we're all panicking. They started Xamarin in like July or August. I can't remember. And so as soon as they opened it up, I bought a new license just right away. I just bought a Xamarin license just to support them. And I was submitting Gmusic under the Xamarin. I don't even know if they had a version out yet that was official from Xamarin yet, if it was still the old Mono Touch stuff, something like that. But I was releasing stuff like that. And that's around also the same time when Apple's like, we're not accepting third-party SDKs and all that nonsense. Yeah, I remember those days. And they were not allowing phone gap apps, was it, or something? Or was it the Adobe stuff? Adobe was doing something for Flash related, and they like shut that down. It was all.
Yep.
It was a nightmare back then. Like, look at the stresses we were dealing with. This stuff was crazy.
It was pretty crazy. It was pretty crazy. I was in school that time, so I was like, oh, okay, that's going on. Cool, okay.
Yeah. I was trying to release apps to make additional income because I was not making enough at work. Because at that point we had one kid, and my wife was pregnant when I joined Xamarin, and I joined Xamarin in November.
Oh, wow, okay.
So this is September. Yeah. I still have no idea what I'm doing. Let's be honest. I have no idea what I'm doing. I honestly, still today, I have no idea what I'm doing. Let's be clear about that. But Gmusic was a nightmare getting to the App Store. Apple wasn't going to allow it, and they just kept denying it. I filed the appeals. I eventually said, you know what, I'm going to try something. I changed the app identifier and changed the name by like one character. I like changed a hyphen or a semicolon to a dash or something like that and resubmitted it. And those people let it in. It was when a new OS version came out. Back then, whenever a new OS version came out, they just like let things fly through. And so finally the app board actually called me and was like, sorry, we're not going to let your app in. We're just not. But that second version was already in. And so I'm like, it's okay. That's fine. And I just left it as that because I had already had a different version in. And then I joined Xamarin in November, and we had the second Xamarin Summit was in November. And so I went to that second one, which was, 4 months after the company had started, 3-4 months, somewhere in there. Those timelines are just like so crazy. And yeah, they let me in. I actually joined Xamarin as customer support. Oh
my God. That's what I was supposed to join as too. That's what I interviewed. I mean, that's what my resume was submitted as too, but then they shuffled me around. No, Chris was like, you're too smart for this. I'm going to send you somewhere else. So.
Yeah. So at the time, Joseph and Chris were the customer support.
Yes,
and so
I remember because Chris had my resume too. Yep, and Chris was like, too smart.
So I knew them from the IRC things. Like prior to that, like during mono times, I even went to that last mix. I went and I actually got to meet all the team. That was back when they were all still at Novell. Right. So like Chris wasn't part of them yet, but so I got to meet Chris and I met Joseph and Miguel and Jeff and lots of people. Phil Hack, I don't think he was at Microsoft still then. I don't think he remembers me, but all the things you remember because you're the little guy amongst all these giants. You remember everyone you met. Chris Toshak. It was awesome. And I was just like fanboying them the whole time and hung out with them a lot. And I really got to know them through that stuff and then through IRC some more. And so, yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because like I didn't have to interview to join Xamarin. At this point, G Music had just gotten really successful. And with my current projections, I was going to make more money from G Music than I was from my programming job. And
that's insane.
Well, I wasn't getting paid that much. I was only making $40,000.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
At the time, just to be transparent, I was making $40,000 a year, which is, I mean, when you're raising a family, you have a wife and kid, and I live in Alaska where everything's expensive. When I switched, I was making $40,000 before when I switched, and I didn't realize the cost of living difference between Utah and Alaska. It's huge. Like we don't have $5 footlongs ever at Subway. You go to Subway, it's $12. It's just what it is. I mean, you're probably used to some of that in San Francisco, but Alaska is just an extreme.
Yeah, San Francisco is a different extreme. But yes, I think I get what you're saying.
But and so like, I'm like, all right, so I'm either going to quit my job and I'm just going to build my own apps. And I'm like, you know what? Or I really liked that team. Everyone I knew, everyone I met there, I'm like, I really like them. I like what they're doing. So I'm just going to send my resume in. And I sent it in. And I had already asked Miguel ahead of time, like, hey, if there's anything, let me know. And then I just sent my resume into their jobs at whatever. And Joseph's like, yeah, we want to hire you. So we need customer support. Do you want to do that? And I'm like, yeah, I think I can do that. And the only thought I had was like, when you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, there's that quote, you don't ask which seat, you just take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, well, before you accept this, you need to talk to Chris. If Chris is still in here, I don't know if he remembers. He's like, you need to talk to Chris. Make sure you're really willing to do this because it's customer support. And so I talked to Chris, and it was nice because I was in Alaska, which is -1 PST. Chris was in England still then. I can't remember what.
Oh,
he was in England. Okay. And Joseph was in Boston.
Right.
And so Joseph would be working, Chris would be working at one point. He would hand it off to Joseph. Joseph would hand it off to me, and then I'd hand it back off to Chris because our time zones worked that way. So we'd be like, all right, I'm done. And we would just pass the baton as to who's on call. Who's dealing with all the support requests through that, which was kind of fun. The three of us covered the globe. And that lasted for about a month. And then Nat snagged me up, and I was just, Nat special projects from then on. So, and even then I was still figuring it out. Like, it's amazing how much I didn't know. And every task Nat assigned me, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do it, but I was like, yeah, I'll figure it out. And just having that willingness to try anything and figure anything out, it works.
It's most important. I think any career, I feel like, doesn't have to be tech. So you need to be willing to learn, and it's like, just do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And so, yeah, I got into tech, and I mean, it all took off from there. We did amazing things through Xamarin. I mean, I had never really given tech talks until Xamarin. And like,
Which just blows my mind. It's just like, yeah.
well, I mean, I never had a need to. I mean, I didn't know enough to actually present anything. So, and let's be honest, the Xamarin talks I was doing, I don't think I knew enough to even present half of those. So it's just how it is. Like, yeah, but I did it. One of the funny things that I was thinking back to the Xamarin days, was like, Nat used to just ask me to do crazy things all the time. And there's times he'd like call me at midnight and be like, we got to do this. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Can we do it tomorrow? But he's like, yeah, I just didn't want to forget. I was thinking about it and I wanted you to do it and I wanted you to do this. And like, one of the nights he called me, he's like, hey, so next week, NASA's coming to the office and I want you to train them to how to build apps. And I'm like, okay. I've never taught anyone to build apps. He's like, I know, but you'll do fine. You'll be fine. And having a boss that like believes you can do it also helps a lot. He's like, you'll be fine. He's like, it's all right.
100%.
He's like,
100%.
He's like, you're not gonna do it alone. I'm gonna have you and Anuj do it. So,
Okay.
So Anuj and I do it, and we like come up with like, this is what we're gonna teach. We're gonna like teach the first day. We're gonna teach this, and we're gonna like. They only had the cool thing was it wasn't cross-platform. They were only doing iOS because at the time.
Oh, okay.
They were doing it for an iPad. iPad was the only tablet / portable device that was approved for the International Space Station back then.
Oh,
which is kind of funny. So it was iPad only. And so we were like, all right, well, we got to teach them MVC. And these are like ridiculously smart engineers. They write the software that runs things and deals with the telemetry for the astronauts and monitors their health and all this type of things like that. And here I am not knowing what I'm doing, teaching them how to build iOS apps. And so we're teaching them MVC and like talking about views versus view controllers, and we're definitely gonna do table view. And so we're like going through UI table view and explaining the delegate pattern. And by the end of the day, like a couple of them didn't even know C#. Like they just had never programmed in C#. So we're teaching them C# and Xamarin at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And one of them was like 80. She was so freaking smart and had been like coding her whole like forever. And I'm like, why am I teaching you? You should like get up here and teach me some. Like it's really humbling, some of these positions I've been put in like that, to deal with people smarter than me. And like, I mean, it's great. It's kind of crazy how in our industry that type of stuff can happen. And one of the craziest thing with that whole situation though was we're like, all right, so tomorrow we taught you some of the basics. We taught you iOS stuff. Tomorrow we want to teach you things that are important to you. What do you want to know? And they're like, well, we deal with telemetry. We need to be able to consume telemetry from a WebSocket. And we're like, okay. I've never done that. Honor's like, I've never done that. So that night we were like hacking in the office. This is in the first San Francisco office, not the one in like the Regal. The Regal one was the first one where it was just like 3 or 4 of us in an office. It was, Vinicius, Anuj, Nat, and I would go hang out in there. But no, the one where we moved down the street, it's at that office, the brick one. And we're hanging out there. They put a bed, they set up that bedroom downstairs so I could spend the night in the office when I had to come in for things like this. So I'm spending the night in the office. Anu's just sitting there working. We're like, how in the world are we going to do this? We started looking at how do you do WebSockets in .NET? There wasn't much out there. There was one library that people said, use this. It's the only one that really works. And we're like, does it work with monotouch? Most things didn't. Let's be honest. There was compatibility issues back there. You couldn't just grab any NuGet and run it.
Right.
We're looking at it the night before someone had submitted and merged a pull request for monotouch support.
Oh man, there you go. Because I'm imagining, oh my god, you spent the whole night trying to get it to work with monotouch. Oh god.
Yeah, no, someone had done the work the night before. So like,
Nice.
yeah, you'll notice there's a lot of ridiculously underqualified, me doing jobs I'm not qualified for, and a lot of luck. There was so much luck involved in my career. Things just lined up so many times like that. Like being able to get G Music up and getting it popular right before looking to switch to Xamarin. And like so many
You're
things.
saying that if you're dueling mine, so what was my career like? So I very conveniently got my internship at Microsoft right out of my bachelor's degree. So
What was that like?
That was
How
convenient.
was that? I'm guessing that was competitive.
That was in Dubai. It wasn't super competitive. It was a little competitive, sure, but it was like they were making us do we were interns in the evangelist team, so we were just doing Windows phones workshops and universities and stuff. So that was pretty fun. That was great. That's when I properly learned C#, I want to say. So that was pretty awesome. I got to learn a lot. But then from there, it was just like, okay, did masters, got out of masters, conveniently joined Xamarin. And then I was literally just like, I swear to God, a month ago, I was just thinking and telling my friends, I was like, I think I'm going to apply to Microsoft again now. And then literally a month later, Nats does the announcement, like, yeah, so we just got bought by Microsoft. And I'm like, great. That was convenient. I didn't have to do anything. And now I'm back in here. So cool. Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like luck is a big thing.
Yeah, luck's a huge part. It's being in the right time at the right place, which is not something you have a lot of control over. It really does. That does play a lot. And I mean, I can't downplay that. I mean, a lot of it is your mindset and your willingness to do things. And I still don't know if I totally believe you that it wasn't that competitive. I have a hard time believing that India is not being competitive, especially going to Microsoft. There's more programmers per capita in India than like anywhere else. But sorry.
That's the thing. I was in college in Dubai though. So in Dubai, it wasn't that. It was competitive. Sure. I wouldn't say it wasn't super competitive. It was definitely competitive. Sure. I mean, but yeah, still, I'm just saying, I feel like it's also like a whole, like you said, time and place thing.
Right,
but it was nice.
Okay.
I
didn't catch that.
It was pretty great.
That makes a difference, I bet. But yeah, I'm like, come on, like I can't think of a more competitive tech landscape.
The rest of it, of course, you do need your brains to do it. But I feel like it's the more important thing is the willingness to learn. Like you learned having thrown yourself into these projects. I just threw myself into a structured learning program, but it was. In either place, if you don't have the willingness to learn and be open to learn new things, I don't think you'd be successful either way. So you need to be able to like get your hands dirty and learn. Because there's some people, there's the people who like to read and learn, and then there's like, I think kind of like both you and I, we just like, no, let's do it, and then we'll figure it out. Like we'll eventually get to the docs, but let's just see how far we can get, just trying things.
No, I completely agree. It's been interesting because I've been talking to other people inside of our industry and even some other people inside of Microsoft, and like explaining my method is so different. Like I was asked like, well, how do you come up? Because right now I do architecture for Maui and architecture in the mobile space. And like, well, how do you start when you're talking about architecting something? Like, honestly, I open up a code window and I start coding. What would I want? And I'll do it if I'm doing like real code, I'll do it in like an actual IDE with like better IntelliSense because I want that. If I'm doing pseudocode, I just open up a VS Code window, and so I can just like write crap that doesn't make sense and can't compile. I'm like, this is what I want. How do I get there? And they're like, but how do you do that with like this between lots of different things? I'm like, I just bite-sized. I'll say, okay, I want it to look like this, so I do a little bit of code for here. This is how I'd expect it to work. And I build a little prototype. I'm like, that's just what I do. I start trying things, and some things work. Some things fail miserably. And I mean, there's lots of things that you would think would make lots of sense. Because I remember when you first started at Xamarin, you were doing all the UI test stuff, and then you started doing stuff with like the UI test recorder. And that's something like, how did that not take off? And it's such cool things, and it doesn't. Not everything sticks.
Yeah, but you can't just shy away from it. Say, I was like, no, it's a cool concept. Of course, I'll do it. Like, why not do it? Like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I didn't lose anything. I got to do cool stuff. So.
Yeah, and you learned. I mean, one of the main things that I would also recommend career-wise that most people should do and evaluate, and hopefully I'm not making anyone switch jobs right now by this, but you really should evaluate, am I learning in my job? Am I just going through the motions? Am I just doing the same thing and I'm not learning and growing? If so, you've been at that position and doing that too long. It's time to start. You should be doing jobs that you're underqualified for, but you're able to stretch to do. Like, don't just start trying to become the CEO when you haven't learned how to do anything. Like, you need to like jump in and do things, but do things that you're not comfortable with and that you're going to have to learn, stretch, and grow. Do it. Make sure it's not too far that you're going to break. But if you're not learning and stretching and growing, it's time to switch. It's time to mix things up and do something new. And I feel that way even with myself in my career. I'm always doing new things. UI Test Recorder is actually one of those Nat Midnight things. Hey,
of course.
we need something like this. So
Yeah, this is something that just record and just give you tests. Sure. Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna ask you about you're doing all this stuff and Xamarin stuff, Form stuff, all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you decide, hey, I'm gonna learn how to do VR and AR, VR game stuff. How did that happen? Did you just again midnight dream for you or something, or what? What was that?
No, so like I always like do side things just because, and I go through spurts. So my own personal time, how it goes through like this sine curve. Like that's the best way to explain it. And it goes between extremes of me doing side projects and me playing lots of video games.
Fair enough.
And so I go through the spectrum of what I'm working on. And like when back in the day, I don't remember when, but when the Oculus Quest the Oculus developer, like first thing was put on Kickstarter, like I read about that and I saw the things when like Carmack was doing stuff with Lucky Palmer, and they were showing that stuff off before it was like a thing, and they had Doom running on it. And I'm like, that thing looks amazing. And then they're like, we're going to do a Kickstarter in a month or so. And like, I was like anxiously awaiting. I did the Kickstarter day one. Like day one, I'm like, I'm doing this. And I didn't even tell my wife I was spending, and I didn't remember how much it was, but I didn't even tell her. I should have, because that affected our finances, me buying that. But I'm like, I'm kickstarting this. I'm doing it. I do that stuff once in a while. I've never gotten too much trouble. Yeah. The only one that I thought I was going to get in trouble was when I ordered a car without telling her, and I didn't get in trouble. She was like, you know what, we should order a car. I'm like, yes, I already did that months ago.
You just got lucky with that for sure. Let's hope
it was like, yeah, pure dumb luck. Lots of luck. Yeah, so I just got into VR super early. My shelves aren't lit up right now, but that whole last two things is all VR headsets. I own almost all of them.
Right. Okay, so let me switch the question. So how was it now trying to learn a complete brand new platform, brand new space? Because this isn't mobile, this isn't Xamarin, this isn't Mono. What was it like for you? Yeah, like did you try something different, or did you just, again, same thing, I'm going to build a game, just throw yourself into it?
Yeah, and so just going to build a game. I'm going to throw myself into it. And I came up with like some ideas of what I wanted to do. And one of the skills that I've definitely gotten pretty good at over the years is like breaking things out into composable pieces. If I can get this piece working, and then I can get this piece working, and then I can get this other piece working, then I put them all together, I'll have something that works better and does something like that. And a lot of times when people see hard problems, they go straight to, wow, that's impossible. Like, how do we do that? I mean, Comet, C#, MVU, all that type of stuff, and the C# hot reload, all that came about because I was in a meeting with a bunch of CVPs and higher ups and like distinguished engineers and people, and they're like, no, they were showing off. Someone was showing off Fabulous and how Fabulous can do all this stuff, and like we can't do that in C# without changing the language. I'm like, sure we can. And again, you just break it down to these little pieces. I know I can do this piece, and I know I can do this other piece. And if I can probably figure out this other piece, I can put them all together and we'll have something that works. And being able to like break problems down is a great skill to have, and being able to figure out what the different pieces truly are. And so like I do that with my VR stuff. And it's like, well, if I'm going to build this thing and I have certain concepts I'm going to build, I start by first actually doing it not VR. I'm not going to throw that extra piece in there. I'm going to like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, the one that I've done a lot is I want to do stuff with zombies. I'm like, I want to figure out how to make a zombie. I want to figure out how to do the animations to make sure it can do that. I didn't do the animation myself. I bought an animation pack. Again, I lean on open source or other things that people do better than me. There's nothing wrong with leaning on open source, leaning on prepackaged things. Lean on things that you don't have the skills for. do it. And so like I did that. I learned how to spawn an enemy, make them follow me, and do the pathing. And so I started with that type of thing first. And then like, how do I make a character and make my guy walk around? Now make them chase me. And so I slowly built up to that. And once I had those pieces figured out, I'm like, all right, now let's try this in VR. And it all fell apart. And I had to learn how to do more things. Like, it's like, okay, this is very different. I mean, you think about, since I was doing a zombie game, you're shooting things like the model's just there, right? And it's just there.
Yeah.
But now you're doing things.
Pick it up.
Pick things up. And so I learned how to pick things up, how to do the interactions in it. And then I wanted to make it multiplayer. Guess what? Totally different. I had to start over again. But like knowing the things that I learned previously made it to where that wasn't that daunting. And I kept doing things like that to, okay, now I'm going to learn networking. Well, guess what? Now that you're doing networking, there's like the source of truth of who's allowed to actually send things. And in a normal multiplayer game is different than VR. So if you're going to shoot, you need to spawn a projectile or do the ray cast and say, hey, I'm shooting from this point to this point. It's either going to happen on the client and the server, or just the server, or both. A lot of times it happens on both, but only the server one matters. And that's why you have those things. If I shoot you, did you move or not? The server could have moved it. No, it didn't hit. But to do those calls, to do a hit and then cause damage or proxy things, you have to have authority to do that. Okay, so the player can do that. Well, now we're talking VR. What's the player? It's not the gun I'm holding. I can't pick up a gun, squeeze the trigger, and shoot out of that gun. And so in single player that worked because there is no authority. It just works. But then you pick up the gun, you tweeze the trigger. The gun has all the logic for how to shoot and how to aim. And it sends that to the server because the position's replicated there. But even then it's like, nope, no damage, nothing dies. The remote player can't kill anybody. And you're like, what is going on? You have to like proxy things back through. All right, well, yes, I did that from the gun, but now that has to proxy through the controller. And so you just start learning all these little things of, oh, this is horrible. And how do I do this? And so it's like bit by bit, just breaking it into these smaller pieces. And so, yeah.
Yep.
And again, I started doing that. Well, let me break this apart to where I wasn't doing it in VR because VR adds that extra layer. Let's take a step back. Let's simplify this. And so I spend a lot of my time, how do I step back and simplify this to the smallest possible thing? And that's, I mean, it's how I approach pretty much every problem. Let's break this down to the simplest, smallest pieces. How can I do this in the simplest way possible? I don't try to come for grand crazy things. You'll notice a lot of my architecture is very basic and simple. I'm just a simple person, so I just default down to that. Small and simple. Just go that route.
Yep. Okay, so then, like, if anyone else in your career at this point, they just be like, I've done a lot. I'm good. I'm in a good position. How do you, I guess the question is, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going? Like, you didn't have to do this whole VR stuff. I mean, that was your passion, but I'm just saying, like, you could have just been like, oh, I like what we're doing in my day job. I'm good. I'm settled. But yet here you are still looking for new things to do. What keeps you going?
There's too many interesting, challenging problems to solve. Now, just like I said, with my VR stuff, just building a VR zombie game, that stuff exists. That wasn't my point. That was just one small piece to get to my end result. The thing that I've been tackling lately has been trying to synchronize positions in real world and VR world, because that's what's exciting to me. Doing that AR, VR, we're in the same room. I like playing social games. I stopped playing solo games. I'll do them once in a while. It's great if I'm on a plane, but if I'm going to spend my time playing a game, which I don't have a lot of, I'm going to play a social game. I'm going to play something fun. I'm going to play with friends. That's what I enjoy. And so even with the VR, I like, before the pandemic, we used to throw VR parties at my house, and we'd pull out multiple headsets and we'd play games. Like, it's really cool playing, is it VR chat? No, that's not VR chat. There's one of those VR games where you can like lots of mini games.
Squirrel one, the one you were telling me about, like, not Squirrel.
Squirrel's a great one. Yes, Acron's Attack the Squirrels.
Yes.
I like games like that. And there's a lot of them that you can play, and you'll see those videos of like people playing multiplayer Beat Saber, and they're all just in a circle. It's kind of lame because you're not really interacting with each other. Yes, you can look over and see someone Multiplayer VR is kind of fun. I actually joined a game with Carmack, and that was amazing to be able to say, look, it's Carmack, and I'm playing with him, and he's way better than me. But if I'm playing with my actual friends, I want to be able to talk to you. I want to play a game with you. I want to play against you, with you, something. Let's play. And so that's the type of things that it's focusing on. No one's really solved that. There's one game that finally came out that lets you do that, but you need a 30-foot by 30-foot spot. No one has a space that big to play games. But that's what excites me is like trying to do. And so I just want to tackle the problems that haven't been tackled yet. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. I have a strong belief of if you're not learning at your job, figure out, talk to your manager, do something new inside of your position, expand. If not, time to find a new job. And I really believe it. And so what I do is I keep doing things to keep my job interesting. I keep thinking of how do we make this better? The hot restart stuff with like iOS without a Mac. I was told that was impossible. I'm like, no, it's not. We can do it. And so stuff like that, it's just like finding those challenges that keep me going. That's really what it comes down to is it's these challenges. To be honest, I'll probably never finish my zombie game, but I have solved the problem to where now I have co-location in the same spot. So I've picked a new challenge to try and solve, and maybe I'll finish the game by doing that. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But new challenges. That's really what it comes down to. I enjoy solving hard problems, and so I keep finding new hard problems. It's a never-ending list. How about you? What are you doing career progression-wise? What do you do to keep going? Similar
to yours. I go through phases of, okay, I like what I'm doing. I don't want to do anything new. The lower end of the sine curve, I guess. But then I'm just like, oh God, now I'm bored. I need something new. So yeah, usually I, like you said, go to my manager, go to Alex. Either I have something in mind and I just be like, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to go do this. Is it cool? And then usually he's cool with it. So I just go do stuff like helping you out with the Comet stuff, or maybe just doing upgrade assistant. It's like seek out stuff I like. But if I don't know what I like, I just go to him. And I'm like, hey, I want to do something different. And that's when he threw me to the UI tools team for a month. He's like, go work with them. That's new. Figure that out. So I'm like, okay. So yeah, I don't always I feel like I've been better about it now. I wasn't always like that. I was always just do the job, just do the work that's given to you. And then I had to like rewire my thinking, I guess, a little bit. And I was like, no, it's not incorrect to try and do something outside of what's your day to day. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
it's
not
completely,
at all.
it's actually good. It's better. You get to learn something new. So yeah, it's like, yeah, cool, okay. Yeah, that was fun. It was super fun. So yeah, I got to learn a ton there. I had like no idea how stuff works. And now I'm like, whoa, that's how stuff works. So that's cool. I got a sneak peek into the rewrite of VS Mac, which was awesome. So yeah, it's like, yeah, but I think that's, I don't know if there's a camp of people who are like me, but I was like that for the longest time. Like when I applied to Xamarin, if Chris hadn't pushed me to go talk, interview with the Test Cloud team, I would have just taken that support job, even though I was like way overqualified for it. But someone had to push me to do it. It later on, like in my career, is when I actively started doing that for myself, not having people do it for me. Like John was a huge influence in that because he showed me how he was doing the touch draw stuff, and I was like, whoa, you can do stuff outside your work. That's also cool, and that's allowed, and it's cool. Like, cool, yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So. Also, I'm very curious. That's my default nature. I love puzzles and solving things. So if I find something that's interesting, I go deep into it. Like, ooh, I can build my own game, like Game Boy. Yes, I'm going to go figure that out. Ooh, I can put my own games on the Game Boy. Nice, I'm going to go figure that out. Like, ooh, there's a Raspberry Pi thing. Sweet. Okay, let me see how many things I can do with it. So it's like, inherent curiosity is very important, I feel. Like, don't be like, it's not wrong to figure out how stuff works. That's how I do it. But now I'm like, we were talking about that. I've also now reached this point where, this is what we were talking about the other day, when interviewing for a new position, though, how much of it should be just about the work you're doing versus the team itself. And I think that's equally important, trying to like figure out the culture of that team and how they work. And that was one of the main reasons I loved interviewing for Xamarin, because apart from the interview process being like super fun, everybody I spoke to was so fun. Like Lulu was my manager
Oh,
then,
Lulu's
and
great.
oh man, I know. I was like, I don't care what you make me do. Can I just work with you, please? You're so cool. Like the people in Xamarin were just so nice. It was like, no, you didn't have to think. I didn't have to think. It was just like, I finished the interview and I was just like, yeah, just I'll sign the offer at like right now. Just give it to me. Such an awesome space to work in. So I think like that's really important to having a good supporting team. That also helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with that, like having that support, I mean, having the right team, like I said, I've had people support and say, yes, you can do this. Having a manager who supports you is huge. And it's interesting because if you don't have that curious nature and you're not trying to help all these other things, it's funny because as your career progresses, it actually becomes expected of you, whether you realize it or not, for you to seek out and help those around you. Especially like even inside Microsoft, as soon as you start hitting like 65 level, to get that, they're like, well, what do you do to help the teams around you? Not just your team, but what do you do to help those teams around you? And it's really interesting because a lot of people have a hard time transitioning that because they're not used to that. And there's a lot of ways to find value and to help other teams and keep your job interesting while still doing your job by helping those around you, talking to your manager. Also, I've already told Alex this, but I told you this. I have a giant backlog. So if you ever are in one of these, I don't know what to do.
Yes, I know. He's already filled my time up though, unfortunately. So next thing I get a break
Analytics.
to do, I'm gonna come back. So now it's like this point where it's like too many things to do, and I'm just like, oh, okay, fine. I'm gonna figure out what I'm doing next. But yes, I mean, I wouldn't blame anyone not knowing what to do if it's stuck because I was stuck for a while too. So, but that's when like having a good team helped because that's why I was lucky to have John, and then he's always pushed. So he's like, no, you can do this, try this, go learn this, go check this out. So I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. Cool.
Exactly. Having that manager to support and push you and help guide you, especially when you don't have your own backlog of stuff to do. It's very important. And that's one of those things that if you're bored at your job, talk to your manager, figure out, even if you're just not bored, but you're just, the status quo. There's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Just don't go with that. Rock the boat a little bit. Talk to your manager, say, and it's fine. If you are in that stage of your career and you're happy there and you don't want to, that's fine. To each their own. Yep. I'm just saying for me and my career path and my personality, I can't do that. When things get to the point where it's like, I'm just doing my day job, there's something wrong. And at that point, I evaluate. I'm like, well, what am I working on? What should I be working on? And that's what I figure out. And I mean, for the past 3 years, I actually, and it gets to the point as you get more senior and farther up, my manager hasn't told me what to work on for over 3 years. I have my own backlog. I say, these are the top problems I want to tackle. This is where I'm at. This is what I want to work on. This is where I'm spending my time. Do you agree? I don't just say, screw this, I'm doing it, deal with it. No, it's not that way at all. But I'm like, this is what I want to work on. This is why. This is how it's going to, this is the business impact it'll have. And if you're talking with your manager regularly, hopefully your list aligns with their list anyway. And so, and he'll add things. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely something I'll throw on my list. That's something interesting to look at. And I'll reprioritize my stuff and say, okay, I'll do that after I do these two things, or at this stage, let's work on these first because I still think these are higher priority. Or it's like, oh no, you're right. Your thing, let's do that now. That's time sensitive. And so, but for the most part, for the past, 3 years or so, I've managed my own backlog and my own, this is what I'm working on. And this is what I want to accomplish next. So it's kind of fun when you can start getting to that point in your career. But you have to work with your manager ahead of time to get those skills, to be able to recognize the needs of the broader organization, and to be able to to get there. You've got to have that curiosity and get used to poking and saying, why do we do this? Why is this a thing? Can we do it better? Why is that a requirement? And don't be scared.
Can we do it better is a great question. Can we do it better doesn't get asked enough. I feel like people just say, can it be done? And they stop there. But I feel like, no, can we do it better is a more important question there. It's like, of course you can do it better.
And asking people, why do we do this? A lot of time the answer is because that's what we've always done.
Been done, yeah.
That's the wrong answer. If that's ever the answer, it's the wrong one. Go reevaluate that. Maybe the answer for why it was done in the first place is still the correct answer. But if no one knows what that correct answer was, no, it's time to rethink that and time to look into that.
For sure. Yep.
So does anyone have questions? We didn't start by saying if you have questions, ask them. Poke.
Oh yeah, we should have probably said that up front.
Probably should have. My water's empty, so I'm gonna go and refill my water, and you guys can be entertained by.
I'm gonna do that too. Oh man, no.
No.
Leave them
Okay.
with me.
We're both gonna go
back.
refill our waters.
Yeah, we'll go get water because I also want water too. Yeah.
Ask questions. If not, we might
Leave them in the chat.
Leave them in the chat. We'll be right back. Yes. Just ice. Does my noise canceling remove the ice?
Can't hear the ice. Do it again. No, talk and do it.
Okay, so if I'm talking and doing it, can you hear it?
No, I still can't hear it.
Noise canceling is great.
I was testing a theory. Okay, so yeah,
good.
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. The dog, she got through this time. I don't know why. All right, I'll be right back. You don't have to entertain. You can go get your water. People might ask.
I'm going to
be done.
Yeah, people should just ask questions. I'll be here. Actually, now I don't want to move. I do have more water left. I didn't realize.
Be right back. Ooh, questions.
No, we're just talking.
Just talking.
No, but I think my theory was correct. I think if you talk, that's when the noise cancellation, I think, dips a little bit. So then if you shake your bottle, we can hear it a little bit.
All right.
So if the dog barks and you talk and it overlaps at the right moment, that's when it cuts through.
Okay.
But all other times, it doesn't.
So I just need to not talk. That's actually really good advice anyway.
You don't need to talk. I shouldn't be allowed to talk sometimes. Oh, every time they call me to come back on the community stand-up, I'm just like, why? I'll just say something weird again. And then I'll just think about it the whole day. Like that last time I asked people to submit feelings about their submit bugs about their feelings. And then I was just the whole day, I kept saying that to myself. Why would you say that, Sweetie? Why?
You're good. Imposter syndrome. Don't worry about it. You're good.
But I don't think anybody did submit any bugs about their feelings. So now I'm a little sad, but it's okay. As long as you do that little happy face on BS, I'm good with it.
So,
all I care about.
Yeah, I mean, definitely good career advice, I think, if we're going to sum it up, because no one wants to talk to us. And
I don't know what to talk to us. I'm so sad now. Talk to us.
It's okay. But really, I mean, the best advice I could give is be curious, try things. Don't be scared to do something you're not qualified for. You'll figure it out. Nothing I've done in my entire life I've been qualified for. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
Go out there.
Yeah.
Do something. Do something that you care about and are passionate about, because notice each time I've switched technologies, it's something I've cared about. And that helped me overcome the hurdle of this sucks and it's hard to do, because I cared and I wanted to. So having something you're passionate about helps a lot. And make sure you work with people who support you and who push you to do more. And if you're not learning and you're just going along the status quo, reevaluate. It's time. Ask your manager, can I have more responsibility? What's some interesting projects I can work on? How do I make my day job more exciting? Because it should be. I personally love work, so I'm weird, I know, but I think that everyone should love what they're doing. Yeah, managing time, work, and family is hard, especially for those of us remote workers like you are as well. Because you don't have, I'm going home. I'm off the clock. There isn't that. And that's why I was saying I have that like sine curve that I go on. I don't work on side projects 100% of the time. My VR stuff, I actually stopped working on it it was a year period before I tried working on it again. It was a whole year I took off from it. And that's fine. That's fine. It was my time. I've been playing video games with my kids lately, and it's been blast. I was actually playing Halo Infinite multiplayer last night with my 5-year-old and my 7-year-old. That was great. It was awesome. Like, definitely.
Yep.
Mix your hobbies. So my one son, he's 10. He's almost 11. I just installed Unity on his laptop for him. And he wants to start doing some Unity stuff. And that's exciting. So I'm trying to like mix those things so I can do video games with the kids who like it. And then I get to have fun because I'm playing video games. And I'm going to work on some Unity stuff with my 10-year-old. That's awesome.
For sure.
So I'm doing side project stuff with them. And so that's kind of how I do it. And like I said, I go through these sine curves where I'm like really, really invested in my side projects, or I start to lose interest and I start switching to other things. And so I've been trying to like mix my interests with my kids more because that helps. It just does.
That's a good way to do it.
So how do you balance it with your kids, Sweeky?
I have no kids. First of all, the only kid I have right now is this stupid Tamagotchi who's like almost, I think he's dead now. I don't understand.
Did you kill R2? When you sent me the picture of that, I said, it's the one thing, don't kill R2. It's wrong.
No, he's alive. Look, he's alive. He's just a little upset right now because I didn't feed him, I think. He keeps beeping all the time. Thing is, each evolution of this R2 has a separate secret game. So I'm kind of bored with the current secret game because I've played a whole bunch of it. So I'm maybe actively trying to kill this R2 so I can start a new cycle and get a different evolution to play the other secret game. So it's not technically
That's the most
killing
depressing
R2.
thing I've ever heard. You're trying to kill R2. I'm going to remind you of that someday.
I'm not trying to actively kill R2. It's just like this R2 is done. We need to meet new R2 now, is all I'm saying. But yeah, no, I mean, for me though, I love playing video games too. So it's like, do I want to do something or do I want to play video games? And most of the time it's let's play video games. But there's some days when like when my Ada box subscription usually arrives, it's like, ooh, new microcontrollers to play with. Nice. Then I'll just be like, I won't play video games for a month and just like play around with it. But yeah, I think it's like, it's what you said though. It's like trying to find the balance between what's fun and spending some time on that. Like sometimes I go into this weird mood. I'm like, there's no DevOps in any of our samples. And I just go sit and freaking just write DevOps for like a bunch of GitHub repos just because I can. Then I just won't do that for weeks. So.
And yeah, it's not a flat curve. I don't think that there's a slider that you can get it exactly right because our moods change. And I think a lot of me not working on my VR stuff was part of the pandemic thing. I was like, we all went through the pandemic lull of like, I set my side projects aside for an entire year, which is unheard of. Normally my spurts are like 2 to 3 months, not, I don't care. It's a year. I haven't touched my crap for a year. So, but it also tends to cycle with how exciting my work stuff is. When I get into certain, I can hear R2.
Yeah, he's beeping. Like I don't even.
You woke him up.
This is the cut.
You woke him up.
Look, this is his current evolution. It looks like he's puking or something. I don't understand what it
He's
is. Projecting.
I can't hold this shit. He's projecting.
It's a hologram, isn't it? I swear to God, it looked like he was puking like fuel for the first 2 days to me. I'm like, what is going on? Did I kill him already? But I didn't kill him. So
he's projecting holograms.
Yeah, so that's what I'm done with this one now. There's one of them, he turns into an X-Wing. So I want that X-Wing evolution because that has like a flying game.
Okay, that makes sense. Disassemble R2.
Yeah, the other evolutions are fun.
You're just disassembling to rebuild.
Yes, I could press that button that does it, but I don't want to like, that's mean. I don't want to just like if he just dies on his own would be nicer. So I'm just not going to feed.
A slow and painful death or a quick disassembly with turning off the power switch?
Okay, maybe I'll just turn the power switch.
Because you're like neglecting him. And
I'm not technically neglecting him. I'm just like not feeding him as. It's like he's on a diet now, so that's how I'm thinking. You can't eat all the time.
I'm not neglecting. I'm just gonna starve you to death.
Maybe I'll just turn him off. But yeah, see, I do things like this. Now that I'm done playing with this, I'm going to eventually then break this apart to see what the electronics are inside of it to see what I can do with it. So
And at
Yes,
some point,
exactly. I'm going to do that. I'm going to break it. I've broken apart every other Tamagotchi I've ever owned just to see what boards are inside of it. So I'm going to do that to this eventually. So
if you ever do get kids, you can't just disassemble them and have the next evolution. Just making sure you understand that.
I have been explained that, yes, before.
I know it's tough. Sometimes you would like to and say, take these traits from this one and these ones from that one and get rid of that trait. We'll just throw that one away. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, that's what they keep telling me.
All right. Well,
Yep.
if no one has anything else to talk about, hopefully this was helpful to somebody. I've just been nostalgic and talking about past lately.
I mean, at the very least, your streaming setup is back and running, so you can stream again.
Kind of. It needs work. But yes, I did get it.
But it's yes, you
functioning.
did do the effort. Yes, functioning, which is more than it was 3 hours ago. So you know.
The problem is I like reset that machine. Like I wiped Windows and reinstalled Windows. And then I set the streaming stuff up for one thing. And then I turned that computer off and I have not turned it back on since then. Like my Stream Deck was plugged in. I was telling Sweetie, I'm like, my Stream Deck will not boot. What is going on? Why won't this thing boot? It's just stuck in the logo. I had it plugged into the wrong computer. Like it's in that bad a shape right now.
That can be an issue sometimes. Exactly. Yeah.
Sad.
But yes, now you should go back and stream more stuff. I don't know what you'd stream though, but you should. I don't know. What would you stream?
If I was to stream, I'd probably work on some more Comet MVU stuff.
Comet
I
stuff?
recently just got the VS Code extension working and Hot Reload working in Comet again. The next thing
nice.
I want to work on is some of the .NET Hot Reload, like the .NET Watch command stuff working inside of Mono, because none of that works in Mono. So I kind of want to work on that for Mono next a little bit. Or maybe I'll just switch Reloadify over. So Reloadify uses the .NET Watch stuff under the hood. And the problem is there's no communication right now between .NET and Mono if you're not debugging.
I see.
And so,
I see.
I got to work on some of that stuff. So maybe I can do that. I don't know what I'd stream. Actually, for the next few weeks, I'm going to be actually writing the content for my workshop for Dev Intersection.
Dev Intersection. That's right.
So if any of you are bored and have nothing to do in the first week in December, fly to Vegas and go to Dev Intersection, and I'll be there, and we can say hi.
Yep. You're doing 2 workshops, 1 workshop. How many?
I'm doing an all-day workshop on intro or on VR. It's all intro. We're going to build a game for Unity, using Unity for an Oculus Quest. And if you attend that workshop, you get an Oculus Quest. Nice. So everyone gets an Oculus Quest, so that way they have something to work on in the workshop.
Nice.
And then I have 2 talks. I'm doing one on...
You have 2 talks, yeah.
I have one on intro Unity for C# developers.
Okay.
And then I'm doing a common MVU one. And I have no idea what I'm doing. And I need to actually write those talks. Because that's in like 3
Comet
weeks.
NVU. Okay. You might have to build an app for that, I'm guessing.
Do I have free tickets? No, I have a discount code, I think. But I don't have free tickets. I think I do have a discount code. So you could drive. It's only like a 5-6 hour drive? I don't know if it's being streamed.
Even I
It's
don't
in
know.
person. And I'm excited that it's in person because I have not been on a work trip since like January of whatever year this thing all fell apart. No, actually, I went March. Sorry. March, right as Seattle was getting their first cases. I was in the Seattle airport during the first cases of COVID in Seattle. Like my family was all
Nice.
like, what's going on? You're in Seattle and there's like cases in the Seattle airport and you got to fly home. And Seattle airport's the only way home. So yeah, Lachlan, for you, it's too long. But Descriptor lives in Utah, so he doesn't have
Yes,
any
he's in
issues.
Utah. He could totally do that drive. Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I wonder if they will. I do the Dev Intersection, like sessions get posted after. I don't know about your workshop, but your talks possibly.
Let's just bring up the Dev Intersection website. See,
Let's
Sweetie,
check.
you were
I
right
also don't
making
know.
me build the scene for both of us and sharing my desktop.
I told you.
Now I gotta find. I just lost OBS. Okay, I found
Now
it.
that I can't fix for you, but I know
No, I
eventually have
found
to
it.
share your screen.
And I don't have Stream Deck buttons to switch, so I've got to manually click buttons. Ooh, okay.
Ooh, okay.
Dev Intersection. since you guys don't know how to Google, I'm going to Google it for you.
That's our main job most days. It's all we do.
right.
Okay.
Let's find, there should be like an FAQ or something.
Or like past events. I don't know.
But these workshops, yeah, look at this. I'm actually not doing the .NET Maui one. That's on, I'm not, but I'm probably going to go hang out so I can answer questions. But yes, here's my session. Yay. And here's all the stuff you need to do if you're coming, because you need to install everything because hotel internet does not work.
Oh, that's smart. That's a good thing to put up there.
I put the list up. I'm like, do this.
That's a YouTube.
There is no like.
That's a dev section YouTube. There's videos on here. I think
There's
they
videos.
will eventually.
So maybe they will. I don't know.
I think the talks might go up. Yeah.
They might.
Oh my God! There's actually a virtual workshop event day 2.
There's
Charles
a virtual
Lamana.
workshop? Look at the people I'm going to be with. Isn't that awesome?
That's insane. That's crazy.
Oh, also, I'm going to be, I somehow get invited to a panel. I'm doing my first panel. I've never been on a
That's
panel.
right. You're on a panel.
I just seeing Kathleen Dollar remind me because she's also on the panel.
Nice.
I'm on a panel for some strange reason.
Okay, so from
But
what I'm
I don't know.
seeing here, there's
They
limited number of videos that are not limited number. There's videos that go up. So I think
It doesn't say, so nothing's
nothing's
saying.
clear about it, but maybe some of your stuff might go. There's a panel here that I see. Maybe
I don't even
you
know
will.
when I don't know. I know I'm doing the one thing. I know my workshop is. That's Sunday. And that's all I know. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. If you guys go say hi to Fancy on my behalf.
Yes.
I haven't seen.
come.
We haven't hung out. We haven't hung out in person in forever.
It's been a very long time. Hey, look. No, that is the wrong title. I've asked them to change it. They're like, hey, do you want to do a C# nodal ability one? I'm like, I hate C# nodal ability. I cannot do a talk on C# nodal ability. Like, I can
Is
if you
this
want.
your intro to Unity then? Is it that?
Yeah. So they changed it to Intro to Unity. They were supposed to.
Oh my
so
God.
I need
You
to
should
ping
go
and be
tell
like,
them to. Yeah.
It's still the wrong title because I am not talking on that. I don't like that stuff. It makes me angry. So maybe I should overcome that and actually learn to like it. But yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be streamed. No one told me. I just know I'm going to be there. And I'm definitely, well, as far as I know, I am not talking on null ability. And C#. I have no tricks. I hate the dang thing. It makes me angry. So either way, that title needs to change. We can change it to why I hate C# null ability.
Or that could work too. Right. It
Actually,
could be like that. It could be like that thing Jason did. Was that one talk Jason did, one Evolve, where you just like stuff I don't like, or like don't do things like this? No.
Yeah. I
Was it your talk? Was that yours? Am I confusing yours and Jason's talks now?
I'm not
Stuff
sure.
your mother never taught you about C#?
Oh yeah, no, that I did one on, but that was all stuff I liked. I loved that. It was async and await, which I actually loved.
Oh yeah.
So-
okay, so then flip that. So now you're gonna do stuff I don't like. So that stuff your mother doesn't.
Yeah,
like
I've never
about
given a talk on
C#.
stuff I don't like. I wonder where it shows the panels. Or would that be in sessions? There's something. Oh yeah, look, check it out. Like I am in the wrong
Oh.
group. Can you believe that? Someone has no idea who I am and put me in the wrong group.
You can totally talk about .NET. What do you say?
I know. I'm just saying. Like,
What do you mean to put you in the wrong group?
you look at the homepage and the people here. Once again, I'm going to be doing something way beyond what I'm capable of doing.
You're 75% of the way. You can present.
Yeah.
You know the stuff. It's just you just have to figure out like that last bit. So you're fine. You'll be fine.
I've never done a talk on Unity before. So this will be I've never taught people how to build games and apps. So that's even new. So
Did you figure out what finally the game is going to be, or are you going to figure that out next week too?
no, I figured out what I'm going to build. So when I was first getting into VR, like I said, I like to build very simple things. I always start with something very super simple. And so I'm actually taking one of my, and I like to think about how can things be different because I don't want to just do what everyone else has done. And I'm like, if I was going to bring something into VR, what would be fun? And when people are getting into VR, even giving someone controllers and having to push buttons can be a lot. they don't know which buttons to grab. A lot of nullability in Unity. But in VR, a lot of things are complicated. Like, and I always want to dumb things down to like the simplest thing possible. And so I was like, you know what? Locomotion is something that still has not been figured out in VR. It's still not a solved problem, still today. And so I'm like, what if I don't use, I'm like, what can I do to where I don't need hands, and like you have no hand interaction, and you have no like, and like, how do we try and tackle this locomotion thing? And so that's kind of what I was going for. I'm like, you know, it would be really, really, really fun. And it turned out to not be very fun. But at the time, I'm like, do you know what would be really fun? What if we did, do you guys remember Crossy Roads? How it was like that endless Frogger? I'm like, what if we did that in VR, and what would that look like? I'm like, let's be honest, it's Frogger, right? Frogs jump. So I built an old VR game, or I built a VR version of Crossy Roads. It's not Crossy Roads because I don't copy games, but it was that concept of like cars coming across. You can hear them honk, and it let me explore lots of different things in VR, because in VR, sound matters. You need the spatial audio. And so learning how to do spatial audio. And so I had cars coming and things like that. And so you could do spatial audio. And then it had I wanted to learn how to do the random generation for like the level and things like that. And so it brought in lots of concepts that I wanted to learn. So I started first by building Crossy Roads on desktop, where like you generate the lanes and you generate the cars, and cars honk and make noise. Right. And then I put that in VR. I'm like, oh, I need spatialized audio. How do I do that? So I figured out spatialized audio so I could hear where the horns were coming from. Then I'm like, how do you do locomotion? You jump.
Right.
And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. You look and you jump. And you look and you jump. But I modified that to where it works for the Crossy Roads thing, because like even with Frogger, you jump into a square, you possess a square. And so how do you translate that? I made it to where based on which way you're looking, I'm looking this way, so I'm looking at that square. If I jump, I will just jump onto that square. And it's actually an amazing experience as far as locomotion goes. You don't get sick. Like, there's no VR sickness whatsoever, because that jump, you did something. Even though you're jumping in place, you're not jumping forward. You jumped in place. It was enough for the game to be like, oh, I'm moving. And so I jump you onto squares. And so we're going to rebuild that, because it teaches you a lot of aspects of building these things. And then after that, I haven't had figured out what we're going to do after that. But I'd like to build that complete game. And
that'd be cool.
We need to do something with interaction, with hand interaction, because that's also a big part of VR. But if you're just starting out and introing yourself into VR and you've never played VR before, not having the hands, just putting on a headset and jumping, the problem is if you're actually decent at it, you're just jumping in space, and that's exhausting. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I have just one request. You as people are building and, debugging, you need to take a video of a whole room of adults wearing VR headsets and just like jumping on the spot. Jumping. And, like, eventually I started just putting the headset in my hand going as I'm testing it.
No, don't tell them that. Don't tell them that hack.
Nobody knows. But you can hold the headset and just do it with the headset.
And then just do that. I know, because that's how I would do it too. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be a room full of people just jumping, and it's going to be hilarious. And that's what you need to post. I'm waiting for your Twitter feed to be full of just random people wearing VR headsets.
Everyone wearing headsets and jumping. But I mean,
and then going like, no, I died.
I might walk them through towards the end of the workshop if we have time and if people are understanding concepts and things. I might bring them through some of my later VR experiments I've been doing with like the synchronizing world space and VR space and how that works, because that's some very advanced topics when you start thinking about how VR pawns work and how game pawns work. VR, everything's weird, and so there's just lots of odd concepts when it comes to that. So, but we'll do something where we have to do teleporting, and we'll probably do some hand demos where you pick things up and explain how it works and walk you through that, and then have you modify that a little bit. But starting out, I think that would be a good game, because if you can get through that, then you introduce hands. It's a different game to introduce hands, unfortunately. It's not truly building off what you've already learned, but I think it's a good...
I think, you learn a lot of important concepts that first game, so that's good. Yeah. Cool.
And nullability is not an issue in Unity because you can just say if on anything and it'll say if it's null or not. Like, it's kind of cool. They had better shorthand syntax for nulls way before C# did. They have like, that's another thing that's kind of odd, and then I'll want to talk about in my C# for Unity people. It's different. They have their own they have their own C# rules.
Interesting.
So it's kind of cool.
That is cool. Nice.
All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Or should we end and I'm going to go eat lunch because it's 1:00 and I have not eaten today.
I think I have to go before Alex yells at me for not doing work. So.
Just tell him I requested you and he can take it up with me. Tell him that.
No, I don't think he's noticed I've been on the stream for like all this time now. Let's see if he figures it out. So
yeah, just tell him come talk to me.
I just feel like I was doing work. Okay, this is work. This is important.
Yes.
Very, very important.
This is part of our diversity and inclusion. We're helping other people join our industry. So it's actually part of what you promised to do at Microsoft.
That is very true. I'm going to put a link to this in my Connect now, which I still have to finish.
I just hope nobody watches it.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. This was fun. Thanks for joining me, Sweeky. I didn't want to do this alone.
Yeah.
Everyone said they wanted me to do this. I'm like, Sweeky, you're joining me. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yes, you are. Come join me, please. And then
I don't even know why I tried to say no. I was like, yeah. I was always going to end up joining him. So.
But yeah, feel free to ask questions if there's stuff you want to learn, stuff you want to know about. If you want career advice, I don't know if mine's going to be any good, but I'm fine to give my opinion.
Tweet at Clancy.
Everyone's career path is going to be different. What worked for me won't work for you, or maybe it will. It might, but I can't promise it will, and I can't say this is the only way to get into tech. This is the best way. We each make our own path and try things out, be adventurous, do what you got to do.
Yes.
Have fun. Any words you want to add, Sweeky? Go for it.
No, nothing else. Just that please send good vibes to my R2D2 who's going to be dismantled in like 5 minutes. Well, not dismantled. I'm going to kill this one. So I get a new one. So I'm sorry. It's a digital pet. Okay. That's how it is. It's just ones and zeros. Okay. I can't get emotional about this stuff. It's not my sourdough starter. Talking of which, I have sourdough pizza happening in the evenings. So I'm very excited.
Are you going to have like a memorial service for this R2?
I don't know. Maybe I'll say some last few words. Like, I still think it's puking. I know it's a hologram now, but it's animations.
So one final thing on Tamagotchis. I started on this years ago, back during the Xamarin days. I've never finished it. No one has built a Tamagotchi app for Apple Watch. I started on one years ago.
Would it work though?
Absolutely, it would work. Yes.
You think?
Oh, absolutely. I started
They
on
get
it.
annoyed. Everybody gets annoyed when that stupid watch tells you to exercise. You're telling me now I have like a thing there, like sit there, feed me, clean my poop.
People would do it. I started on it and I never finished it.
Where is it? Where's the repo? You should finish it.
It's on my GitHub somewhere.
Why didn't you bring it up during hackathon? We're gonna do it. Okay, next hackathon, that's what we're doing.
We're going to do the Apple Watch top. No, because then Microsoft will own it.
Oh, shit. Okay. That's not going to work. I want to own it. Okay, we'll figure it out. Yeah, I want it. Now I want to do it. Now
we've got an after hours hack one day. Work on, I started on it and I had the logic and stuff working. I just never finished it. And this was back before you were allowed to run an app on the watch. You had to run it to where it ran on the phone and the phone was communicating.
That was an extension. Yeah, it was an extension.
Now you can actually run apps directly on the watch.
That is true.
So it's actually better suited now. I just haven't done it.
Yeah. This is how we dog food Maui, maybe. I don't know.
Yes.
Let's see. I'd rather build it in Comet, though. Let's see. Okay. We have things to do, things to try.
All right. Or someone else go build it because we may never get to it. But someone should build a Tamagotchi watch app for the watch.
I just say, I can't. Okay.
Especially because you look at the age of people wearing it, it's nostalgia for us. All of us played with Tamagotchis as kids.
That is why I keep buying these. That is true.
It would sell.
That is true. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm convinced.
See, push the envelope. All right. Thanks, guys. It was fun. Thanks again for joining me, Sweeky. And ask questions. Sweeky probably can answer better questions than me anyway. So tweet her.
I will try.
We'll try. And maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. All right. Maybe we should.
We have one user.
Yes.
We have one person who will at least test for us. Yes.
Yes. So maybe we should live stream building a Tamagotchi.
Ooh, there you go. There's an idea.
Pair programming. All right. And we've got Maui graphics now, so we could even do it. Go kill your pet.
It's upset again. Yeah, no, it's upset with me. It did something. I don't know. Probably starving. I don't know. Okay. It made sounds and it did something. Okay.
All right. Bye for real. See you guys.
Bye.